Gary here. Welcome to Book Mob episode 42. Today, my title of my episode is Books for Non-Readers. Now, the reason I chose that, I don't mean people who can't read or never read. I'm talking about people who don't have the time to find out the single book they may read in a year or a month due to the timing and the discipline it takes to read. So I've picked 5 books that I have read in the past and thoroughly enjoyed. This is not my top 5 books, but it is 5 books that are open to, I guess what you call it, page turners, or books that I found so interesting that I imagine and I assume that others may find interesting too, because of the characters, because of the narrative, because of the history of the writer, or the genre. So I'm saying to you, out of these 5 books that I've picked, I want you to think if you can read one of these. And again, I've taken time into consideration in that I haven't picked any books that are mammoth or tomes. And again, this is not my top 5 favorite books, but these books would certainly be in my top 50 of books that I've read over the past decades. So the books are going to be Falconer by John Cheever. Remember that episode of Seinfeld for you oldies? All Quiet on the Western Front by Erich Remarque. Brilliant book. The Road by Cormac McCarthy. One of the most depressing books I've ever read, but the depression is so real, it really grabs you. Oh, and Walter Tevis, The Man Who Fell to Earth, made famous by the film by David Bowie of the same title. And this one, Jarhead, Anthony Swofford. And again, we'll go through the books and I'll let you know what I think of them.
From John Cheever. Oh. Dear Henry, last night with you was bliss. I fear my orgasm has left me a cripple. I don't know how.
Falconer by John Cheever. Now, this is a very, very accessible book. Great story. It's about an educated man who commits a murder and he gets sent to prison, and it's how he deals with the barbarity and the brutalness of his life in prison. There's also a very sinister underlying sort of text about freedom and solitary pursuits, the individual set amongst the wolves, and it's also about drug addiction, to the extent that the character is a heroin addict. Yeah, that's right. And it's how he goes to prison, and the fact that he's an intellectual, he's a academic who finds himself in the situation. So it's a stranger in a strange land. And it's a really, really interesting and fun read, and brutal. But it's a worthy read, and you could easily get through this on a weekend, or if you're a slower reader, at least in a week. But a good story, well written by a well-known writer, and I highly recommend this as a go-to book for this weekend if you're looking for something to read. That's Falconer by John Cheever. He's an American author, by the way.
Gewissermaßen, die eigentlich dem Leben gegenübergestellt werden sollten, plötzlich dem Tode gegenüberstellte. Und was würde mit ihnen geschehen? Aus dem Grunde habe ich auch im Westen nichts Neues eher als ein Nachkriegsbuch angesehen, als ein Kriegsbuch, weil ich mir dachte, es wird immer wieder gefragt, was wird aus uns werden? Wie werden wir nachher leben können, nachdem wir alles dieses mitgemacht haben, nachdem wir uns mit dem Tode haben auseinandersetzen müssen? Wie wird es sein, wenn man uns nun wieder in das Leben hineintut, und was wird mit uns geschehen? Und der Erfolg von dem Westen nichts Neues war auch nach meiner Ansicht vielmehr der eines Nachkriegsbuches, eines Buches, in dem diese Frage eben gestellt wurde. Was ist aus diesen Menschen geworden? Es wurde auch zum ersten Male gefragt, was haben nicht Menschen einen Schaden davongetragen oder irgendetwas davongetragen, dass sie im Krieg gewesen sind und alle ihre mit sogenannten sittlichen Grundsätzen umschmeißen muss. Man hat ihnen gesagt, du darfst nicht töten, aber man sagt, du musst gut zielen, damit du triffst.
Ob Sie es nun wollen oder nicht, Herr Remarque, Sie...
Now, this is a classic, well-known, I mean, they've made films, they've made TV series, but again, nothing beats the book written by the person, Erich Maria Remarque himself. So, a soldier, Erich, he was a soldier in the First World War in the trenches in Europe, and the book, from the films I've seen, the book still tends to hold a much more gloomy and a real sort of distaste for war, and the way that this soldier expresses himself in the story. You almost get the feeling that even though it's not a biography by any stretch of the imagination, or even a memoir. However, a man who served and spent 4 years in the trenches for the Germans in World War One would probably have a very, very stable understanding of what it is like to fight, die, get maimed, desert. All the I guess the narratives of war, in a very tight, concise, easily enjoyable read. I mean, most readers could probably finish this in a day. 2 days is fine. 3 days is even better. But if you're looking for a book to grab your interest because you haven't been reading and you'd like to start, this is another book that is so accessible and enjoyable. It's entertaining, even though its content is disturbing, but it's a wonderfully written book, so well expressed. And if you read the book, if you ever find out, there's an artist called Otto Dix, a German post-World War I artist, and it's funny that his Otto Dix's work, his work from the war, he was in the trenches too. It's a great companion piece with this book, Otto Dix. So this is a wonderful book, full of drama, depression, tragedy, but a great read.
I think a lot of people think that the road La Carretera is a very depressing, sad book. But the truth is, it's the real story is about the love between the father and the son. That's what the story is about.
Okay, The Road, a bit more substantial than the first two. However, I've never read a more bleak and powerfully depressing book than this. It takes the end of the world genre 1 or 2 steps further in the story verse of end of the world apocalyptic books. This one is great because it's not about zombies, it's not about meteors, it's not the end of the world. That's not the premise. That's merely the start. And some of the scenes where the main character, Dad, the father, I think he's called, he's the one who has this discussion with his wife after the fall of civilization, and it's so ugly, and it's so tactile tragedy is just so well expressed by Cormac McCarthy, who recently passed away, I think 2023. Anyway, this has also been made into a fabulous, brilliant film. But again, the novel will extract a different meaning for you. You will get much more out of it. The reading muscles and your own imagination brings to life the world that McCormack created in order to get across a message about abandonment, isolation, the human spirit, the human condition. So a little bit, takes a bit more of a read, but it's written so simply and so smoothly that the time taken passes quite fast, and it's a real gripping read, something that you'll pick up and you won't want to put down. So it's well worth reading.
I had rheumatic heart, children's heart disease, or at least so they told me. Anyway, being immersed into Kentucky all of a sudden was really a shock to me. I think that's what I was writing about in a deep way when I wrote The Man Who Fell to Earth.
He awoke in a taxi with the woman. She was shaking him gently. "Where do you want to go?" she said. "Where's your home?" He stared at her. I don't really know.
Okay, the fourth book of the choice is The Man Who Fell to Earth by Walter Tevis. Now, there's been I think I haven't watched it, but they made another TV series of this, which has nothing really to do with this book. The film made in the 1970s with David Bowie as the Man Who Fell to Earth is pretty good interpretation of the book. Again, however, the story of the Man Who Fell to Earth in its textual form, its literature, it's the birth of this narrative is so good. The idea of this stranger in a strange land on Earth who comes here with a mission in mind, and it's how he slowly reveals himself to the world, and it's so eerie. It's like it's made to make you feel like you're the alien. You get this idea of this total sort of the difference in culture, in mind. You know, this alien comes to our planet, this alien planet, and it's how he tries to find, get a way through for a certain goal that he has to do, and it's captivating, and the way that you really get the writer Tevis really got stuck into the idea of this being isolated from everything from your culture, from your family, from your society, from your own being, and plants it in Earth. And it's so interesting. I've read it twice, and again, concise. You'll get through this maybe 3 or 4 days. Not as smoothly written as the other 3 books, but definitely a page turner, and something that is definitely worth having a go at. So, looking for something this weekend, try this one.
About your own book first, your own background in the genre of war recollections and stories.
I wrote a memoir about the 90-91 Gulf War, my time in the Marine Corps. Much like Mr. Ferris, I was as well a common infantryman, part of a sniper platoon in the 2nd Battalion, 7th Marines. And my book is as well as sort of a ground pounder's account of what it's like to be at war. Often the received history or the public history that we have about wars is often told from the general's purview, and I felt that was lacking in the Gulf War, the war that I was involved in, and my impetus was to tell that story, to tell the story of the guys on the ground, the guys eating sand for breakfast every day, and that's what I set out to do with my first book.
This is a great book, again, made into a film with, what was his name? Jake Gyllenhaal playing the main character. This is the story of a Marine who wants to go, so he joins the Marines in peacetime. The Marines obviously have a great history of warriors and battles and wars, and he's a young man, and he wants to take part in that. He sees his future, his manhood can only really come through being a soldier and a warrior and a fighter. He's desperate to fight in the war. And when his turn comes in the Gulf War in 1991, he's actually, with his unit, is sent to the desert a whole year before the war actually kicks off in January 1991. Now, the way the portrayal of the soldier's life, the peacetime soldier's life versus the wartime soldier's life, is remarkable. I was a soldier in peacetime, and I did myself a short of tour duty in Iraq in 1991, the same time that this bloke was fighting. And there is definitely the peacetime army with its chores, with its bullies, with its psychopaths. And then you take it into the wartime, and it's a different army. It's a different experience. And the way that Swofford describes his transition from peacetime soldier to warrior is excellent and frustrating, and so so that you feel Swofford's desire to fight. You feel his need to take part in a war so that he can sort of come to the conclusion, yes, that I'm a man, I'm a warrior, I survived it, I did it. But it's much more than that. It's about, it shows you the bureaucracy of the military and how fucked up it is, and how inhumane it is, not from the point of view of killing people, but inhumane as how the officers and senior command treat and think of their men. And the real tactile human experience is as a private soldier, or in this a Marine, I think it was a Marine corporal, and it demonstrates how young men are drawn to battle, drawn to into fearsome situations that are totally and utterly different from their imaginations before they go. And once you're there, you're stuck. You can't get out. You've wanted this, and here it is. Now deal with it. And it's a really, really powerful story about soldiering in pre-21st century. So that's a great book to read. Well, I hope you can find yourself keen enough to read Falconer, by John Cheever, sorry. Jarhead by Anthony Swofford. Walter Tevis, The Man Who Fell to Earth. The Road, Cormac McCarthy. This is in my top 10 books of all time. It's a great book. And All Quiet on the Western Front by Erich Remarque. So I hope you can find some time, check out your bookstores and try and remember these titles. And if you do pick up a book and you do read them and you do find them as good as I thought they were, please let me know in the comments, and it would be great to hear from you. All right, so I'm almost finished. This is the third Ken Follett of the third volume of the century series, and I'm up to, where am I? Yeah, I'm up to 703 on this one, so I should finish this weekend. It's taken me 3 weeks. I think it's taken me 1 week per volume, and maybe I'll talk about that on an episode coming up. So thanks for joining us, and please like and subscribe if you feel you have the need to, and leave any comments and any suggestions. It'll be great to hear from you. Thanks a lot from Bookmark, and I'll see you on the next episode. Bye.